right, Oval fans. We're talking episode 10 Going Black. Wait, isn't this like the second title with black in the title? What was it? No, it was The Dark Sheep. Now we have Going Black. Let me just put it this way. This episode, in my opinion, was definitely one of the better episodes of the season so far. And thinking back and looking over the notes, I think what really made this episode very watchable to me, because overall I enjoyed the episode from start to finish. Yeah, there was the typical repetitive dialogue, but it's a Tyler Perry show. I think what really made this episode stand out was the fact that there was no, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I did watch the episode thoroughly, but I could be wrong, but I don't believe there was any appearance or mention of the Lily and Bobby storyline. I mean, Kyle and Donald were in the episode briefly. Kyle definitely made a showing at the end. Donald was briefly in the episode, and that was about it. But overall, this was a good episode, Going Black. So let's go over the notes here. So we have Gail, who's pretty banged up after jumping out of the limo. But the whole Victoria not giving a damn about the situation says it all. Gail is literally crying for help. But, you know, look, I'm not trying to victim shame here or anything, but she did throw herself out of a slow moving vehicle. So I really don't know what she expected to happen. I mean, she wasn't wearing jeans or anything, so her knees were both scraped up pretty bad. And again, I mean, if what she did, what was it? Didn't Victoria ask the Secret Service like a gun or taser? Like if they gave her those weapons and then she pointed that at Gail and then she jumped, that's one thing. But Gail just choosing to jump out of the car and then being surprised by the repercussions says a lot. And I have a lot to say actually, but should I just go into it? Oh, okay, let's go into it now. Okay, so I'm no expert in this. I don't know the fundamentals or the inner workings of the White House, but when it comes to Secret Service, are they really that submissive to the president and first lady? Guys, once again, please don't condemn me in the comment section. I literally do not know. I mean, civics was probably my lowest grade in high school in regards to all my like history and social studies grades throughout public school. But at the same time, there's like, I get that the president and first family is in charge, but at the same time, isn't Secret Service supposed to protect the family? That's almost like, I'm just trying to think of an example here. Let's say, I know this is just a random name to throw out there, but Kevin Hart, because I'm just thinking of like a celebrity who has like bodyguards and whatnot. So let's say Kevin Hart, his wife, and you know his two kids, not counting the baby, are on like, you know, they're walking through a mall or whatever, and Kevin Hart asks his security for a gun in order to use it to threaten, you know, his wife or child because they're quote unquote acting up. Wouldn't the bodyguard be like, you know, hey, I'm not going to do that, Mr. Hart, because number one, that's a dangerous weapon to use or even threaten your family with, not to mention that's going to be a bad look on you to have a weapon pointing at your family. So for Secret Service to be as submissive to Victoria, yeah, she's the first lady, but at the same time, their duty is to protect the first family. So when the first daughter is laid out in the road like roadkill, screw what the first lady says. We're going to wait for proper medical attention to show up. So Victoria is more worried about what the press has to say, yet she's not trying to think of the most effective way in order to get her daughter back into the White House. So I feel mixed on this because overall this was a good episode, but it was moments like this that made me cringe. Like, I don't really know if that's how that's supposed to work. So let's get back into the episode itself. So Sam and Donald are briefly talking. They're updating on this whole Gail situation. Senior staff is going to be brought in because this night has been wild. So they really need to make sure everything is, you know, in order once again. Richard is going to be hired tomorrow. I believe Donald said he would follow up on that because he had forgotten, which okay, he got fired, what, several weeks ago, several episodes ago. So it seems confirmed that Richard will be getting his job back. So Sam calls Priscilla to come into work. Honestly, I like the Sam and Priscilla dynamic. Like, oh, wow, baby, I'm sorry. I know it's your night off and everything. No, you just find time to rub my feet. It's just like little things like that. It's good to see for the most part, functional couple within amongst all the dysfunction in this show. So I really like their dynamic. Sharon and Barry are cuddling, and she tells him to fall asleep. Nancy and Tally are talking, and she wants to know where Callie is, and she doesn't really tell. She just talks about how she was abused when she was being watched by her grandparents as a kid, and she talks about all of her past sins. And Nancy goes on about how she's not a priest, so I'm not really a person to confess to. And then they get into a discussion about the Lord, and it feels like Nancy has depth. It seems like Nancy has a checkered past, because when Tally's well, I guess you could say almost putting Nancy on a pedestal because of her being a good person and whatnot. Nancy kind of walked away because evidently she's done some things in her past that she's not proud of. Then we go over to Max and Jason looks like he's hitting the same pin that Danny and Zach were using on Sisters, and he is just creeping around in the West Wing, which I believe is the same area of Beast Castle and Beauty and the Beast that Beast told Belle never to go into. So I thought that was a nice nod. I know it probably wasn't a nod to Disney, but that's immediately what I thought of. But he overhears the moaning. So when Max tells Jason that his dad's in the Oval, which he isn't, Jason puts two and two together, calls his mom, lets her know about the situation in the West Wing, and him and Max kind of go at it, and Jason decides to leave. Richard finds the 24-hour protest for Thomas Fields. The chief of police shows up, says that the neighborhood doorbell cameras of 3 houses have a grainy picture of the car, Barry's car, and they're going to find the culprit no matter what. So Richard is a bit shaken by this. He gets a flyer from one of the people at the protest, and he leaves. Priscilla picks up Jean, who still hasn't gotten her car back, and they're on their way to work, in the middle of the night. Priscilla's pretty much like, hey, we have a code. We're not supposed to talk about the people in the White House. So that was pretty much it. But Jean is I don't know, she's just adorable. Okay, then we go over to Sharon and Nancy, and she's saying that she'll stay at the house. Her and Barry kind of, made peace, and she said that he'll apologize to you once he wakes up. And Sharon goes to check on Tally. Nancy says she's going to call Richard. Then we go over to Gail and Victoria as they arrive in the White House. She scolds Yuma about her attitude and the fact she gave her a look of judgment. And then she goes upstairs. Then very emotional moment between her and Sam. It's the quiet moments like this that I really love with characters. Like, blowing up stuff and cat fights are one thing, but moments where you see characters interacting and you see how they're affected by those interactions are what really sells certain episodes to me. But Sam recognizing that Yuma is pretty much, like stone cold in regards to doing her job, but to actually see her react to Victoria the way she did, Sam knew something was up. And like she told Sam, it's like she treated her like roadkills. Like, in all my years of combat and everything, I've never seen anything like this. So both Yuma and Priscilla both feel bad for how Victoria treats the kids. So that was a pretty good scene there. Let's see what else. Denise and Hunter, she wants to go, and he tells her to buy that stock. Hunter just a sex hound, nothing else to say there. Jason and Victoria. Victoria comes in and asks Jason where Hunter is, and then she pulls up Veronica. Veronica did this same move where she took off her heels, put on some tennis shoes, and was ready to whoop some ass. So she goes down to the West Wing. Victoria and Max and Hunter is like, you're not going in there. Max, take her away. Do it now or I'll do it myself. They get into it. And this is one of my favorite parts. So Sam goes in to break up the fight. Jason's just eating this all up. Sam shoves Hunter to the ground. Well, it didn't even look like he shoved him. Victoria was like kicking ass. I will say that much. She was kicking ass. But, Sam broke up the fight, and with like one shove, Hunter went down. He got up and was pissed off. It's like, don't you ever put your hands on me again. Denise is rushed out of the White House. I believe Max and both Sam take turns, I guess you could say, getting her out of there. But basically, he tells Sam, "Who am I? The president of the United States. Don't put your hands on me again." But at the same time, Sam wasn't thinking about the president and who Hunter was. He saw a married couple going at it and, well, got the man from beating his wife. So kudos to Sam. And we're almost done here. Just flipping to the next page, excuse me. All right, so Priscilla and Gene arrive at work right as Sam is about to take Denise through the, I guess you could say, the employee entrance, if you will. But Priscilla pretty much stops him in his tracks saying, "Hey, what are you doing? This is not protocol." So she takes Denise to the back to put on a maid outfit. Pretty much Denise was pulling a Gale in regards to how she snuck out of the White House. A woman named Miss Alice, who I think is, in charge of like floor arrangements and whatnot. Gene pretty much kind of rushes her through the check-in, basically to avoid the whole witnessing Denise, sneaking out of the White House. But Yuma is actually going to be taking Denise home, and Priscilla pretty much, saying what's going on here. Usually you are the one who's thinking 3 steps ahead, but I think that just seeing how Hunter and Victoria were going at it affected Sam the same way that Yuma was affected by how Victoria was treating Gale. So I think the first family is definitely going to make the staff more emotional than any presidential family they've ever had in the White House. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see how things are going to turn out as the season moves forward. Denise is thinking that Yuma might be into women despite the fact she's married. Not much to say there. And then we finally get to the last scene where Kyle and the Secret Service burst into Picky's territory to get Gale's phone. Pretty much get Picky and 3 guys and interrogate them, and they don't want to talk. And in probably one of the most gruesome moments of the series so far, Kyle shoots 3 of the guys, and the screen goes black as we hear a gunshot. So is Picky dead? Honestly, I don't think Picky's dead. I think someone's going to walk in, or he's not going to kill Picky. We'll just have to wait and see. Some people, from what I've seen in terms of comments and people DMing me, some people are a bit split on this in regards to the narrative of, black victims and everything like that. And I honestly don't know how to feel about this scene. I thought it was a badass cliffhanger for one, but I don't really know how I feel about it, to be honest. I can't really say like, man, this is just Tyler Perry showing black men in a negative light in regards to, people in higher power abusing their authority and, victimizing them and, just shooting them because, as Kyle said, nobody's going to miss you, that kind of thing. I feel split on this because you have to think that and I could be wrong about this, but the 3 guys that were apprehended along with Picky were the same 3 guys that are going to assault Gale until Richard saved her. So part of it's like, well, they're getting what they deserve. But then at the same time, this was a clear abuse of authority to interrogate someone. So I might do a separate video on this if I come across a solid thought on this. Like if I have a solid opinion on my thoughts on this scene, I'll do a video on it, but I'm not sure if I will. We'll just have to wait and see. It depends on, how I feel within the next day or so after reflecting on the episode. But overall, like I said, this episode was pretty solid from start to finish. I think it will be a very dangerous drinking game to play. Like, take a shot anytime somebody says ma'am or sir in this series, because it seems a bit much. But like I said at the beginning of the video, I really don't know how Secret Service is supposed to work, but when you have the people that you're in charge of protecting clearly doing dangerous stunts and threatening to hurt others within their family, it seems kind of dumb. Like, I don't know how this works, but I get it. It's like, your boss at the job. It's like when they're clearly making a mistake, it's really not your place to correct them or whatever the situation is. But when they're asking you for a weapon, or like, if they're telling you, hey, my daughter who's roadkill, you get her up and throw her in the back of this car right now. It just doesn't make sense to me. And Victoria, like I said, the best moment was when Hunter simply asked, what is this all about? You hate me, I hate you. And the fact that Victoria was frozen in her tracks was amazing, because a character who was kicking ass 1 minute was frozen in place based off one simple question that made a lot of sense. I hope we get a reaction from her soon. Like, I hope she answers the question, because it's one of those situations where if you don't really give a damn about me, why in the hell are you worried about who I'm having sex with? So we'll have to wait and see what unfolds with that. I think this episode was definitely great in the fact that it set up character, like, Yuma and Sam's similar reactions to dealing or seeing the turmoil and dysfunction within the Hunter family. Like, these are people who are known for being professional, like Sam noticing Yuma being emotional, Priscilla calling out Sam for not using his head. Just little moments like that really show you that how they see this family is affecting who they are, and the difference between them doing their job and them being emotionally invested in this family. Barry actually getting sleep, so hopefully he'll be wearing new clothes in the next episode, because like Nancy said, the boy's been up for 2 days straight. Yeah, for 10 episodes in our time. But overall, let me just recap the notes real quick, make sure I didn't miss anything. Richard, Gail, Jason. Yeah, overall, pretty solid episode. I don't know if my score is really going to reflect it, but kind of like Sisters, I did praise the episode, but I gave it a 6.5. 7.5 for the Oval. I think it was a pretty decent episode to come back on. We're about to, 2 episodes left before it goes on the mid-season finale break. I think the Oval is getting a bit better, but like I said, the whole Lily, Bobby storyline not being in this episode, I think is what really helped it. But let me know your thoughts on the episode in the comment section below. What were some of the most shocking moments for you? Like, believe it or not, despite the whole shooting ending, I still say my favorite episode, my favorite part was Victoria's non-verbal reaction to Hunter's question about what's this all about. So with that being said, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new. Check me out on social media. Links are in the description below, and I'll catch you all in the next episode review.